I can work in a group? Are you sure? Semi-necessary background: my senior year of high school I went on foreign exchange to Brazil. I chose Brazil because it's a beautiful tropical country. And I'm a cocky idiot who thinks just because I'm super smart with math, science that a whole language, Portuguese, would come easily to me. It didn't. I struggled with the language and found myself in an awkward situation. I'm a clever bloke and am used to being able to express that. I'm that guy who likes to know why everything works the way it does. And I'm used to launching into conversations, explanations about how things work at the drop of a hat. But here I sat, unable to express myself as eloquently as I wanted to. So I turned from a talkative, mildly obnoxious know-it-all into a quiet kid. Necessary background: while I was in Brazil on exchange, I was placed into public school, Colegio Estadual do Paraná. Now, for my American friends, Brazilian high school is a little different from American. Instead of students going from class to class, the teachers would switch classrooms between each subject. The teacher who is the subject of this story was the English teacher, a man who looked almost identical to Weird Al Yankovic. He began his classes by walking into the room, handing out some English assignments, throwing an English music video on the TV with Portuguese subtitles, and then he'd read the newspaper or a book for the rest of the class. During his first class, while reading his newspaper, he loudly explained that group work was allowed on all assignments and tests, at which point everyone in the class looked at me. Clearly, he was not aware that he had an American exchange student in his class. Subsequently, every one of his classes for the rest of the term, all the students would form a long conga line around my desk and he wouldn't notice. Of course, the assignments were trivial for me, the equivalent of middle school English. So I'd knock them out instantly, then provided explanations in broken Portuguese along with the answers. The smarter kids in the class would check their answers against mine and give better explanations. By the end of the year, everyone in his class had a perfect grade. Our teacher was ecstatic. Clearly, his teaching style of playing music videos and ignoring students was a success. He threw a small party for us, with food and drinks. At the end of this party, as we were all leaving, I stopped to talk to him in English for the first time since being in his class. Hey, Professor T. I just wanted to thank you for a fun class. Professor T of Cower. Espera. You were American? Yes. You didn't know? I left him there, slack-jawed and with a class of students speaking very passable English. TL. Doctor lived in Brazil for a year. Brazilian high school English teacher lets everyone work together on assignments, not realizing that one of his students is an American and speaks perfect English. American student does not reveal this till last day of school. High five fellow exchange student to Brazil. Shockingly, a lot of exchange students do poorly in ESL classes because we were never taught grammar that way. I remember my first English test. The first question was, classify morphologically the underlined words in the following sentences. Quote, let me tell you, it was a damned good thing it was a multiple choice test because I certainly didn't know what morphologically meant. And if it had been short answer, I couldn't have done it. This made me really laugh aloud. Great story. Edit. Is as malicious compliance not too malicious? Sort of like soft porn on hotel channels. Not that I know anything about that personally. I had a similar situation. I went to high school in Belgium, so I learned Dutch, French, German, official languages of Belgium, and English. I went on to get my bachelor's degree and was offered a scholarship in Moscow for my master's degree. While in Moscow, I had to pick a language to study. Aside from Russian, Dutch was too special and the university didn't offer it. French was taught by a guy who made my skin crawl. German would be too much effort. I'm not fluent in it, and still had Russian to learn. So I decided to pick English because I could focus on one language I'm not fluent in, instead of two. My co-students copied all my answers on tests. I even knocked out some essays and proofread their papers. The professor didn't mind, because the shy students started speaking English, something he'd tried to force them to do for years and failed. So exams come around, and it's supervised by the creepy French professor. He has heard about me and took me out of my class, so I couldn't help the other students. He then left me alone with his group. Sweating over their exams, I finished my English exam in 10 minutes. Then picked up an empty French exam. Finished it, then passed it around class. Bruh, nice. I wonder why he didn't notice. I hope your colleagues returned the favor during Portuguese classes, tests. Portuguese grammar is not for the faint of heart. And this is coming from a native speaker. The great news is, in addition to everything else, the students in the class picked up the language. The goal for the class. Awesome. An American who speaks perfect English. I call BS. Smiley face. Based on your description of his teaching style, I doubt he cared much that you did everyone's work for them. Funny. I had a German teacher, in an American high school, who had exactly the same teaching style. I like how you have a paragraph explain how smart you are, without it adding to the story. Similar story, but the roles are switched. My mom was an ESL, English as Second Language, teacher for about 30 years. She also majored in Spanish in college, and would regularly get summer gigs going on delegations as a translator to Central American countries. She has also visited Spain dozens of times and has many friends she regularly corresponds with, all in Spanish. To say she is fluent is an understatement. She may not pass as a native speaker, but has knowledge of dialects from all over the Spanish-speaking world. Anyway, one year she had a Cuban student. His English was pretty bad, but since all the other students were from countries around the world and spoke no Spanish, it would be unfair to speak Spanish with him in class. She also didn't want to reveal she could speak his language, because then he would try to use his native tongue instead of pushing himself to learn. He struggled a lot, and my mom coached him all the way through her class and some of the upper levels of the program as well. When he finally graduated, she congratulated him in her fluent Spanish, telling him how proud she was and everything. He was so pissed. He eventually understood her reasons, and he is still in touch with our family. Almost 20 years later, they do talk in Spanish a lot, now that he's a friend, not a student. I really hope those same kids helped you out with your studies too, since you basically gave them all a free A. Curiosity. Did you like Brazil? Anything worth mentioning about Paraná, Curitiba? Colegio Estadual do Paraná is in Curitiba, city where I live. Lol. So I'm kinda curious about what people have to say about this city I kinda like, kinda dislike. Lol. What's up, former neighbor? I've actually enrolled my daughter to SEP. She didn't get accepted. Lord knows what are the criteria. You got to see what one of the best public schools in Paraná has to offer. Think what the average school in the state is like. Can't tell much for the current state of affairs, but let me tell you, pretty much all schools in my time, I frequented a few, Not because I was a bad student but due to the roaming nature of my parents' job. Would use videos as means to teach English. And it does not work. I learned pretty much on my own, with what I learned in public schools as a basis in which to build. Guess that's why there's so many English schools around. Go figure. Brilliant. I hope you enjoyed the experience. I believe international travel at that age is a priceless part of education and all Americans should do it. As someone who has seen him 31 times in concert, pre or post LASIK Al, I need to get the proper picture of your teacher in my head. Congrats on being your class's actual English teacher. There was an English course run at one of the unis in Perth that was 100% assessment in the final exam. No attendance taken. Swiss tourists figured this out. Came over on student visas. Signed up. And fucked off for a year of partying and windsurfing. Came back at end of year. Aced the exam because the Swiss all speak perfect English. There was a crew of about 300 of them, all doing the same thing, with changeover as the graduates went home and others came to take their place. They knew how to party. Hey man, I am Brazilian. And I was an exchanged student in USA. But that is something for another time. Anyway, looks like you went to a public school. And teachers receive little money to teach. I am almost sure he knew everyone would go to your desk. And he was just happy that everyone passed on his grade. And would not need to do summer school, haha. I studied on public school for 6 months in Brazil and we played poker in the middle of class. And teacher couldn't care less. Not that I would do that again. With my today's experience, I was just a stupid and inconsiderate teenager. Paid schools are often better in Brazil. One of his students is an American and speaks perfect English. He found the exception to the rule.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.